Start spin. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi everyone, my name is J Love and welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement. I represent the Justice for Gerard Movement, which is Gerard is my son, and he was wrongfully incarcerated for a crime that he didn't do. And although he's home now, he served 2 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections, innocent and of the crime, didn't do it, but he's home and we're happy and we're taking it one day at a time. But however, that journey with him that I went along with birthed this movement, turning a moment into a movement. And we come here every Friday to discuss wrongful convictions and injustice, because an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So I welcome you. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully today you will be more inspired to join the movement and help us spread the word about injustice. So as we do every week, we have a group of my friends who come on, and which is the panel, and they come on every Friday with me to help usher this movement. And one of the people who are here with us is Reverend Tia. Hi, Reverend Tia.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I am wonderful. I'm so glad to be here. I recently became involved in the Michigan Social Justice Task Force, Universal Task Force, and I know that it was because of this movement here that I understand today more than anything that reformation is needed in so many constructs, because at the core of our infrastructures, at the core, is the underlining prejudices and mistreatment and injustice that has permeated not only the country, but now I see globally also.
Yeah.
So when you talk about reform, when you talk about wrongful convictions, you're talking about turning over and changing the mindset of people. As a minister within the community, I am really, really concentrating on how do we change those constructs in our mind?
Yeah.
How do we change our way of thinking? How do we recognize when we have implicit biases, when we treat people different because of who they are, because they have a different culture? We cannot change through policy alone.
Mm-hmm.
We have to change through the mind, through the mindset, through how people are thinking, and get people to understand that it takes us looking at ourselves individually before we can even come together collectively to create change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that this is the platform to help educate people for this change, because it is necessary and it is now. Thank you so much, Shayla.
Thank you, Reverend Tia. Just tell everybody before I move on to the next person what it is that you do.
Oh, so right now I am, oh my goodness, I've been in behavioral health for over 20 years, working with the mentally and physically challenged. I've done that for adults and for children, worked with autistic children. I was an executive director for more than 15 years. And I also helped to start one of the first reentry programs in Oakland County, and making sure that when people came out of prison into the community, that the first thing that they got right away was a place to stay and food, and nothing that would replicate what they were used to having when they were in prison. So I feel like today I'm in purpose for a purpose. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So next we're going to bring on Edward. Hi.
Hey, hello to all of you guys. I'm actually in transit. We are actually back now. We are back here from I'm just returning from Lansing with Victoria Burton Harris, second in command in prosecuting attorney's office here in Washington County. We just come from a gathering there in the state capitol with quite a few interesting people. I'm getting out of the car. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, and she told me to say hello to all of you guys.
Hi.
Okay, so that's Victoria there. I'm gonna grab my bag out the back of her vehicle. I got oh my, you guys, excuse me.
You got your tie?
Yeah, I got my tie.
Okay.
So I understand you got the director or former director, designer of the original program, Flip the Script.
Yes, sir.
And I'm familiar with the organization. Thank you, Victoria. Have a great day, a great weekend. I'm familiar with that program. In fact, I got a very good childhood friend that works there, Timothy Greer. I think he's been working there now for about close to 10 years. And he used to work with Michigan Legal Services. Tim himself is someone who is a formerly incarcerated person. As a kid, when I was in prison, he once visited me and told me that he was going to take and go to law school and become my attorney. He didn't do that. He wound up taking and joining me in prison. I was very disappointed with that, but we stayed on top of his head. He got out, got his master's degree, and he moved on with his life. I'm still hoping that he go to law school one day, though he seemed to be, busy with life. But in any case, I'm familiar with your guest program, Flip the Script. I believe former Judge Judge Deborah Thomas used to always come down to the Ryan and Mound facility in Detroit. And when I got out, I would visit her courtroom sometime like I would some of the other judges that took and came to the prison, Bruce Moore and others. And you would hear her in the courtroom telling the young kids, you either flip the script, I'm going to take and give you a chance to go get in the program, Flip the Script. You either go over there and flip the script, or you go back over to the county jail and flip the script. It's your choice. So either way, you're going to flip the script. And so my hat's off to Deborah Thomas and other judges who are taking and trying to give young people an opportunity not to go to prison, to find an alternative for the mistakes that they make. So my hats go off to this gentleman who took and created that program. From what I understand, we need more programs that would take and steer young people away from the criminal justice system and not farther into it. So my hats go off to him. Myself, as a former young offender, I went to prison at the age of 17 years old, and I didn't take and return home until just before my 60th birthday. And I would never want to take and see that visit up on any child, no matter what that child does. I would not like to take and see that experience by any child. Prison and the criminal justice system is an institution of trauma. Sending a person to prison is an act of violence. Mm-hmm. It's an act of violence. So my hat goes off to your guest and your prosecutor here in Oakland, in Washington County. She give you guys her hellos and her regards. So with that, I listen to the next person you bring up here. And again, my name is Edward Sanders. I go by the name of Baraka. I'm a former juvenile lifer without parole. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Michigan, and I am presently working with the Washington County Prosecutor's Office in the Conviction, Integrity, and Expungement Unit. And I'm very thankful for being in this space. I met other people with similar minds that are working to keep people out of prisons and jails. In fact, I met the one of the sheriffs from Washington County, who is presently active in taking and working with people who are involved in the system, where they are taking and trying to bring about the least amount of harm as possible. And it was great to take and meet other men and women in Lansing that come from different parts of the state that's involved in this. And I hope to share that experience with you guys. But for right now, we're going to let you introduce other guests.
Okay.
And I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you.
I'm glad you're here too. Thank you. So next, we're going to bring on, who also seems like she's in the car as well. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Allie.
Yes.
How are you? Introduce yourself. Looks like you in the car too.
Yes, I am. I'm Alexandria. I'm an activist, behavior therapist, as well as coordinator. I try to emphasize humanity over harm in everything I do and every way I can throughout life, just because of the many, inequalities of the world. I'm also on Representative Kyra Bolden's Advisory Council, and I work with different organizations throughout the metro area, Michigan Liberation, Accountability for Dearborn, parts of Southfield, and really just try to do the work and make this world a better place. And yes, I am in the car. I'm actually coming from a friend's campaign event in Southfield.
Oh, okay.
So happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. Thank you. So, and next, hi, Attorney Hugo Matt.
Peace and love, J Love, my great leader. How are you?
I'm excellent. How about yourself?
Good. So glad to see you and all the other panel members and guests there. I am so excited about the Flip the Script presentation because for me, as a practicing criminal defense attorney, 40 years standing in and out the penitentiary, I might add, it's so important that we have alternatives to present to these judges when these young people are being sentenced. You see, let me date myself. Once upon a time in Washington County, they had a program where there was an alternative sentencing coordinator. I don't know if it was funded through United Way or what have you, but anytime a person was coming up for sentencing, it wouldn't just be the probation department that writes a pre-sentence investigation report, commonly known as the PSIR, but the defendant and largely with the public defender's office had an opportunity to have an alternative pre-sentence investigation report that was prepared. But as with most things, funding ran out, and those programs, unfortunately, in my time in the public defender's office, were stopped. So when I hear about Flip the Script and other programs that can give a judge more alternatives than incarceration, which still seems to be the cause of the day, by the way, either direct incarceration or probation conditions that are so stringent and technical, it's hard not to violate. And as I'm sure you all know, they have technical violations for probation, and X amount of technical violations can land you back in the penitentiary system, all right, or there in the first place, you haven't been there. So I'm so encouraged when I hear about programs like Flip the Script and other programs that y'all have been talking about, because it gives me as a practitioner additional tools to be able to use to try to reach out and save a person from the penitentiary experience. And let me tell you, I'm very sensitive to the issues of not only the wrongfully incarcerated, but the overly convicted, okay? Because there are a lot of people in the penitentiary most of which are guilty of something, by the way. It's a myth to say that everybody in the penitentiary is absolutely innocent. That simply is not true. But it is also not true to say that everybody there deserves to be there for what it is they've been convicted of. Okay, see, that's what we've got to understand. And you know, next to being wrongfully convicted, being overly convicted is almost as devious, because you still make a person pay a debt that they don't owe. Okay, so if the admission for the movie is $5 and you make me pay $10 to get in, you might say, well, what you complaining about? You still got in. I said, well, no. I've paid more than what I should have for what happened. So that's the problem, if you will, that I confront on a regular basis with people in the community, is that you cannot say, well, don't do the crime, don't do the time. Because if that was the absolute maxim, I don't know how many of our judges would be on the benches. I know several presidents who wouldn't be president. Okay. And, you know, and I know a lot of politicians, if the truth was known about them and their background, you know, if we were flies on the wall to see who they paid for whatever services they wanted or whatever they did, they wouldn't be so self-righteous in judging other people, see? So for me, as a person who's endured a wrongful conviction, incarceration, and I attribute to the grace of God and Jesus Christ, being able to come out the penitentiary, fight back to do something that's never been done in the state of Michigan, to regain a law license, never been done in the entire 1836 or whatever it is when the state was founded. So I'm proud of that. And I mention that not in an aggrandizing way for myself, but for somebody who's listening who thinks it is impossible for them to move forward with their life. It is not impossible. You only lose when you stop fighting. That's when you lose, when you stop fighting. So I use my example as a way to encourage other people, particularly young Black men, you know, that I represent in court. So who am I? I'm a criminal defense attorney, was a candidate for county prosecutor in 2020 in Washtenaw County, running on restorative justice, running on people being treated fairly and equitably, and also running to show how we give good lip service to say that we reintegrate people into society once they quote unquote paid their debt. That is a damn lie. That is a lie. We do not reintegrate people. We make it so hard for them to come in. Housing, finances, jobs, transportation, education. You understand? We make it next to impossible for a person to fully be reintegrated back into society. You know, jury duty is something that most people eschew. You know, they try to get out of it any way possible. Well, if you have a criminal justice experience in the state of Michigan, you can't sit on a jury. Now, it doesn't matter if you paid your debt 15, 20, 30, 45, 50 years ago. We still label you as unfit to sit on a jury. Now, we've seen how many racist juries, i.e. Stanford, Florida, okay, that have come back with not guilty verdict on a man by the name of George Zimmerman, who murdered a young man by the name of Trayvon Martin. We've seen how racist juries impact the criminal justice system all the time in terms of Black and brown people. So you have the temerity to tell me or somebody else similarly situated, because we paid our debt to society and proved, whether we owed it or not, and proven that we are worthwhile, able-bodied citizens ready to make a contribution to society. You have the temerity to tell me, by that mere fact of my criminal justice experience, I can't sit on a jury to judge your mind. See, this is a problem. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is a problem. So anyway, Hugo J. Mack, as Mr. Sanders said, Mack Street. No matter where your legal problem starts, it ends at Mack Street. God bless you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Attorney Hugo Mack. And before we get into the meat and potatoes, we were going to have Miss Lisa Riley to join us this evening, but she had a family emergency and she's not going to be here with us. So we're going to send love to her. And also we're going to send love to Trisha Duckworth, who is our, panelist every week. She's having a family emergency as well this week. So we want to send love to Trisha as well. And also, please share. Take a second right now and share. And Also, if you missed this live broadcast, you can listen to it on podcast platforms as well as YouTube. So now we're going to bring on our guests. Greetings.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you.
Greetings, Mr. Bennett, who is also the recipient of the Michigan African American Leadership Leader of the Year Award for 2020. How awesome. I had to put that out there as well. Thank you for joining us today. So just tell us everything that it is that you do, who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I would like to really say that thank you for having me on, and I'm excited to be on with this panel of guests, distinguished guests. I would love to sit down and have conversations with all of them. I'm just an ordinary guy that's on an assignment that I understood. As we were sharing earlier off the air, I tried to duck and dodge it, but when you have a spiritual assignment on your life, it's only if you're a smart man, you're going to bend into that assignment. And so currently I am the program manager, coalition organizer, and community organizer for Force Detroit. But up until 2020, I was with Goodwill Industries of Greater Detroit. My last position was the director of community initiatives, and that was after a step down from being the director of Flip the Script for almost 2 decades. And so that's really what I've been doing. Amongst a lot of other things, I was formerly with Ceasefire as one of the 7 individuals that brought that entity to the city of Detroit 10 years ago. And so really, I'm a servant leader, and I'm a servant first, and leadership just happened to be a byproduct of serving.
Tell us about Flip the Script. What inspired that whole program?
That's a long story. I said this and people think I'm joking. All I ever wanted to be, and I was at one time, was a dumb college basketball coach. I loved that and was successful at it, and started seeing while I was a college basketball coach, I did part-time work for organizations such as Boysville of Michigan. I saw names come across their rosters, and I heard names of young men that I grew up with that were part of Young Boys Incorporated, young men who I was associated with, was looked for by the police. That drew my attention to what was going on in the community outside of my main interest, which was sports and basketball at the time. And really, Father Cunningham at Focus Hope had heard about me through the Archdiocese because I was working at Boysville, which was located in one of their former buildings, and had heard about me, and he kept tugging at me about, you teaching guys how to win at the game of basketball. They need to know how to win at the game of life. And so reading the initial headlines and hearing the news about mass incarceration, that hit me in the heart. That was around 1989, 90. And so I finally came on, made a decision that was a human sacrifice, but one in good spirit, good heart, and good mind to come in and get into that industry. Went in at Focus Hope as a director of employment development, working with returning citizens. And I found out that I had been prepared for that assignment all my previous life, and I did not know it. I didn't meet my dad until I was 35 years of age. Never got a birthday card, Christmas card, any money from him, a visit, or anything. And more than 90% of the young men that sat in front of me at my office or classroom, we had that in common. And they were looking at me like, how did you make it in spite of? And so went back to school, which was my second degree for corrections administration. I wanted to know, how was the correctional facilities being ran? How was England able to take out GED and all the mental health facilities? And he took everything out of corrections. How was he able to do that? So I started studying that environment, which brought me in deeper, deeper, and deeper. And so that's how I got into this work.
Wow. So our topic for the day, flipping the script. You and I were talking about different things before I even said, hey, just come on the show. But flipping the script, bucking the system, criminal justice reform, and what does real solutions look like? And that part of it, I was inspired. Baraka invited me to a meeting, I think it was on Tuesday, with SATO and Michigan Department of Corrections. And they were talking about reform and how they want to implement different reformative measures within the Department of Michigan Department of Corrections. So that made me think about just listening to them, like, what does real solutions for reform look like? So, Mr. Bennett, I'll let you take it.
That's an interesting conversation because for 30 years almost, I couldn't have that conversation with them. And I often shared with them that you can't own the solution, but you're part of the problem. You either got to be one or the other. I often shared with them that guys don't run to the parole office and probation offices. They need another place to go. They need another safe haven. They need other faces. And so what I did was, the first thing in reforming the system is start listening to those who are most effective. And so I started having a lot of one-on-one conversations. This was 7/24, while still running my family and doing what I had to do as a dad and a husband. I started listening to those guys. I started spending all my time with those guys. And I started chipping away at all the things that we could from the outside. Now, initially, I wanted to be a warden to go inside to see if I could change the systems from the inside. But when I did an internship at Mount, what I told them I wanted to do, they always told me that you can't do that here. Everything that I said that I would do as a warden, they shared with me, it won't get done in the Department of Corrections. So I went home one day and I told my ex-wife, I said, well, it looks like I can't be a warden. And she said, but you went back to school for just that. You spent all the money and the time. I said, I'm gonna have to do it on the outside. And so the best thing that I could say is that you got to restore people's dignity first. And that's the first thing that I understood, that a lot of these guys and women have been stripped of their dignity before they went to prison, even by the environments and sometimes by the community, but definitely once they hit those doors, their dignity was gone. And so I set up systems in the community that will restore their dignity, number one. Number one, nobody was going to share with me or tell me they couldn't be in one room together. And that was a fallacy to me, because I had rooms of 70, 80 of them together. And I said, this is what we're going to do. The second thing is, nobody should dictate where you live at unless I couldn't beat the sexual offender thing, but nobody should to tell you where you can live at when you return home as a dues paying citizen, and now you're paying taxes. And then the third thing is, I had to get them to paying taxes so they could get their full rights of citizenship. And that meant employment. That meant careers. That didn't mean short-term jobs. That meant letting them live their dreams. And so I would listen to them and say, what have you dreamed about? What dreams were interrupted? What dreams you think are impossible? Because that's what I'm here for. If I can make your dreams come true, then you'll make your kids or someone in your household or family's dreams come true. And so the first thing was restoring their dignity. And so what I really set up was, my first college degree was in marketing. And in marketing, you learn customer service is the key to any business, marketing, and any strength. So these guys were my customer. They weren't clients. Mm-hmm. They weren't ex-cons. I refused to use that word. Didn't even like to use returning citizen. They were my guys. And I made sure that everybody that came in contact with them treated them better than they ever had been in their life. And when you walked and flipped the script, that was the first thing you noticed, whether you were one of them, their mother, their sister, their spouse, you were a cameraman, you were from the news, you noticed that the environment said, you're being treated here with first class.
Wow, awesome. Allie, it looks like you have something. We can't hear you. Your
Yeah.
mic is not on.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, as you were talking, I was shaking my head because I completely agree with that. There's in America, I feel like there's been this repetitive nature of just those who are impacting us the most, the ones solving it. And really, it needs to be those who are most impacted, um, at the front line of solving the problem. And, you know, it's time to look into other options. It can't be the Department of Corrections solving the problem when they are like that. I don't understand why that would be the solution. Um, it's nice to hear that your method is outside of that, because really, reinvest in the people that need it. We have these solutions, but we need the funding. If those who are um, within the system, working within the system, things like that, say the Department of Corrections or wherever, to really help, I believe, funding, Black communities with these ideas, or, giving us our life back, and things that you said, so that there isn't a return to prison. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think that's where change will truly happen. They say the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over again. And commonly, I see a lot of the same things over again,
Yes.
um, with the same departments trying to solve it, when it's like we
Yes.
have so many great people, so many great ideas, and so many communities that, have plans. So it's nice to see and hear your take on that, being different from
And
Right.
they fought me on that every step of the way. They fought me on that. I am not a favorite by the Michigan Department of Corrections by far. Now, maybe the local people, the probation officers and parole officers, either really respected me or loved me in general, but nobody above that really, because I fought for my guys. And I fought. But I also fought with my guys too. I didn't allow them to make excuses and going back in. That was the first thing that you had to do when you sat down with me, is tell me that you weren't going back. Don't tell me you got out. Tell me you came home. There's a difference when you get out and you come home. When you get out, you just got out. When you come home, that means that you're here to stay. There's some intention of you staying in our community. And then I went about meticulously of taking all the excuses away. So the first thing we did is make sure they had transportation at all times, even if I had to get out in the middle of the night and deliver passes and bus tickets. Second thing is I started addressing. There were a lot of good programs out before Flip the Script started. I don't want to act as if I was the only person out there, but none were specifically geared to and aimed at minority, Black, like they call them minority, but Black and brown men. All my curriculums were focused at for Black and brown men, until I got called on the carpet by the women in the community and said, "What about us?" And then we started designing, and we went into providing them services. That, well, the first thing is I did is start attacking institutions, and the first thing is I attacked was the skilled and construction trade industry, where you never saw many of us until the last maybe 15 years, 20 years, that had felony convictions. And so before I left Flip the Script, we had gotten 400 men with felony convictions in unionized skill and construction trade apprenticeships or in that industry, because that's what I started doing, is chipping away. And what I really did was I brought the business managers of a lot of those skilled trade unions, who are white males, into the fold, and they became the advisory council for the curriculums and design that I set up to break into that industry. And so I didn't take no. I didn't take no, but I didn't go away mad. I proved that we could think along the lines with them, and I created win-win situations for my guys, for the industries, and for our community.
Reverend Tia?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking that that's the key, is having the win-win situation. I really appreciate what you do in the community. And the thing is that what I find very discouraging is when politicians and political leaders will say, we want this, we want to see reform, we want people to do well. However, the dollars are not following that. They continue, many times they cut the programs, they cut initiatives that are successful in the community. And for me, you can tell what's important. I mean, it's just like when the word says, where a man or woman places her money or his money, that's where their heart is. And it's the same thing. We got to look at where are the dollars going and what's important to us, even in our own community. Getting people in the community to invest in themselves, to invest in our community, to invest in the people who are leading wonderful initiatives to bring about change in the community. So we got to really ask ourselves, where are we putting our money? What is our nation? Where are they doing with our dollars? What are our county dollars? What are they really doing with the dollars? And these are the questions that I'm urging people to constantly ask themselves so that they can make better decisions with their money.
Mm-hmm.
Very
so I challenged all of that a great deal. And so I didn't ask our community. When I got involved and I started designing the Flip the Script program, the Department of Corrections had the largest line item in the state budget. It was the largest line item. We spent more money on corrections than any budget in the state of Michigan. And I questioned that. I questioned the sensibility of it. I questioned where was the money going. The other thing is in the community, when the skill and construction trades were not allowing young men and women in, and I got women into that industry as well, or we got women into the industry as well. One of the things that I challenged that industry was, so what are you going to do for us? And so when they were building the MGM casino, I got together with those construction teams, and they put on a golf fundraiser for us that raised $93,000 in one day to go toward the program. So what did I do with that 93? I went to the other union halls. I went to the other trades and said, look, this is what they're doing. So you have to push those issues. You have to learn how to leverage things. But the first thing in running a reentry program of sort is the first thing to do it with integrity. Make sure that every dime you receive goes toward the young men and women or the men and women that you're serving. Make sure it's accountable. Make sure you can trace it, you can track it. And then when people read their stories, they can see where you're spending the money. So it's never hard for me to really get money. I started out with a $1.2 million grant for 3 years. When I stepped out of the Flip the Script directorship, we was at $7 million with 38 employees. And let me share another thing that I did. Within 3 years, 50% of my staff were returning citizens. That was the first thing I said. We cannot run a reentry program and not hire the same people that we're asking employers to hire. Now, Goodwill had done a fabulous job previous to that of working with returning citizens and giving them low-wage jobs, and doing that to get them started. But I said, no, we got to bring these people in. We want to give them tuition reimbursement if they want to go back and get their degrees. And so that was the other thing that we did. We had to put our money where our mouth is, and it was easier for me and my leadership to leverage that when we went to the Department of Corrections. So that you'll know, when I stepped away, we were 7 years into having the state's only first state-funded prison diversionary program. We had a prison diversionary program for 7 years where I was able to go in and meet with judges one-on-one. A lot of times they came over to my offices at night secretly. I couldn't have did this without them. Third Circuit judges, 36 district judges. I've heard the gentleman said Judge Morrow, Judge Deborah Thomas, Judge Lillian. I had Judge Marion Martin Taylor was the first person that I opened her eyes, and we designed a prison diversion rate program. So when the young man went in front of them, they had a tool in their tool belt that they could say that I don't have to send you to the state of Michigan. I can send you over and keep you in the community if you will go in and do something with your life. And so that was the last, and that was state funded. And people don't understand that. And they said it could never be done, but you have to keep pushing the envelope, but you have to do things with integrity, because the one little thing you do wrong will lose all of the credibility for the guys that you serve. And you also have to remember, as a director, your life is under a microscope. So you got to keep your life together, because you're representing more than just you.
Attorney Hugo Matt.
Well, part of the problem that I've seen systemically, however, is dealing with the parole officers themselves. You see, the cure has got to start from the top in terms of the director and the kinds of policies that the director of the Department of Corrections is going to mandate on those line parole officers. A lot of the parole officers that I've encountered in these somewhat decades I've been doing this job, I don't find them as a group to be very progressive. I find them to be more of wannabe policemen sort of things. Maybe somebody who tried to get into the police academy and flunked out, you know. And frankly, that's the attitude I had of a lot of the corrections officers in my stint within the Department of Corrections. You know, wanted to be state troopers or something, couldn't pass a damn psychological, so now they got a job at the Department of Corrections where they get to wear a uniform or gun every now and again, and then get to be officer or lieutenant or sergeant to some underling like myself. You see what I'm saying? So they can come and be a big man or woman on campus. Once you step inside that penitentiary, when they get in their cars and drive home, they ain't nothing but Jane or Joe Donut. So and I don't mean to be nasty about it, but all I'm saying is that part of the problem, and I respect the brother with the flip the script and things like that. You see, when most people come out and they're on parole, the parole officer's got an awful lot of authority in how that person has to conduct themselves. And another part of the problem is the parole board itself, because the parole board is the one that issues the conditions that a person's got to live under. So if we can't get to the parole board to have them be more flexible in the kind of programs like Flip the Script or some other reentry program, then that person, that parolee, and by the way, parole averages 2 years and 2 and 5 years, is going to be at the mercy of that parole officer, who could prove themselves to be world-class asses from time to time. And I've had head bumps with many, many, many of them. Okay. So, believe me, with all due respect to everybody, I'm the last person who can afford to go back to the penitentiary, because many enemies as they have made with them people, my role would not be a nice one. So, so pray for me. So in any event, and I agree with what the brother said about not giving up, because that's right. We've got to keep on fighting and putting programs out there and ideas out there to give our people an opportunity, at least a fair chance. So if a parole violation does come up, at least you've got something to tell and argue with the judge. You do not have to send this person back to the penitentiary.
So here's what I was able to do. Now, it took a long time. And not just judges. I'm talking about law enforcement. I was able to make calls. Guys would literally call me when they were getting put in the police car, asking the Detroit police, can I make a call? Well, who you want to call? I'm going to call Mr. Bennett. Yeah, you can call him. Then I get on the phone. Look, bring that brother to my office. Bring him to my office. He and I going to have a talk. I can make the same call to judges. Judge Thomas will tell you there's many times she called me and said, tell somebody, get Keith Bennett down here in my chambers or in my courtroom. So I walk in there and I see one of my guys. So I knew what was going on. And so what we have to do is we got to develop relationships. So I have relationships with, I want to say, a vast majority of the parole officers and agents in Wayne County. They knew me. They knew I would call them on the carpet. They knew I would fight and scratch. They were in and out of my building because I told them, I want you to come see what these guys are doing. See, I built Flip the Script on math. That was the foundation of our program. 3 things: math, love, and spirituality. And so when you come in and you see your young man who may have did something stupid the night before, but he's in there doing algebra and math, trying to get his life together, and I can show you his attendance record and whatever, give us time to get the rest of his life together. And so we did in our building, we paid for it. First thing that the Department of Corrections was lying about was giving these guys ID before they came home. No, you weren't. But I'm not going to argue with you about it. We're going to pay for the ID. Second thing is they can't drive, so we're going to send them to driver's training. We're going to pay for their permit. We're going to pay for their license. So we did that. We're going to get their birth certificate. I took all the excuses away from them. We're going to even do not go out and commit another felony, stealing some diapers, because baby's mama or your wife or your girlfriend telling you ain't no good because you can't afford diapers. Call us. We're going to give you a gift card or the diapers themselves. And so all of these gaps, as a community, we got to fill some of these gaps, and then we can put the heat. So I could go to Lansing, and I had some state representatives on both sides of the aisle. I'm telling you, both sides of the aisle would swear up and down about our services and program. I would go up in front of the House Appropriations Committee with the Department of Corrections sitting behind me, who did not like Flip the Script, who did not like me, and they would give me better respect than they gave them. But you have to develop relationships across the aisle. But I had some state reps like Fred Duhall, Bert Johnson. I had, it was just so many. Santana. I had Sherry Gay Diego. I had them all. But what I did was brought them to the office. It's one thing to legislate and advocate up in Lansing, but you need to see what the guys doing down in Detroit. You need to see how their lives are changing, what they're saying. And so we had to humanize reentry. We had to humanize it. And so with the agents, I get what you're saying because I saw it. And I would get in their butt about it. Like, are you going to be a part of the problem or are you going to be part of the solution? Because you only live down the block. It's not like you live out in West Bloomfield. You stay right down here in Wayne County. And so, and that was the thing that I shared with my staff. First of all, never lie to these guys. These guys know game. Game, no game. Do not lie to these guys. The second thing is treat them like they family, and then they will treat you like family because you're going to run into one of them at the gas station, whether it's now or 5 years from now, and you want them to smile and put their arms around you instead of saying you were part of the problem. So we had to treat these guys better than they had been treated, and I had to get everybody else to do that equally as well. And when we got the judges to start seeing these guys in a different light, that was like a light bulb, but that took years of developing the relationship. But I learned that you couldn't fight fire with fire. You killed more bees with honey. And that's what I did. If somebody got to sacrifice ego and pride and go in there and tear up and tap dance, brothers, y'all stay in the classroom, y'all do y'all's thing. Let me go in here and do this. Because what we want to do is make it better for you. And so I'm really giving out tips for people who want to run successful reentry programs. Because I have people coming from all across the country within 4 years. From far as Seattle, Washington, California, just want to come in and sit in the program. The Department of Corrections stole everything we had. They were not doing skill and construction training inside the facilities. They were doing little metal shop, license plates, the shoe shop. You know what they were doing in there. They weren't doing skill and construction trade. They came and they wanted to take that away from the community. And I fought about that. I was part of Michigan Prison and Reentry Initiative. There were 128 of us as community agencies, organizations for providing services in Wayne County. I looked around 8 years later and it was 3. And I hollered about that. And they said, well, why are you hollering about it? You got yours? No, the community needs to be able to take care of our own. We don't need to come to you for it. We need to be able to take care of our own people.
Baraka.
Yes, I want to pick up on that. What we have to remember as a community, African Americans, the rest of America, when they look at the U.S. Constitution, they look at it as to how it gave them their status, their place. Europeans, those that came from Europe, they look at the First Amendment and they see where they wasn't allowed to take and freely speak. They see where they wasn't allowed to freely assemble and associate with others. They see where they wasn't allowed to take and petition their government. They see where they wasn't allowed to take and worship free of the state assigning a religion, a God to them. They understand that when they look at the U.S. Constitution. The same thing is true with the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, etc. Now, the only U.S. Constitutional amendment that take and address African Americans, the only constitutional amendment is the 13th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't read it the way other people read the amendment that address them.
No,
The 13th, we take and talk about the top half of the 13th Amendment without looking at the second half. When you do that, you're looking at a glass that's half full. The first half existed before the Civil War.
yes.
The second half came in after the Civil War, and when you read it, you ask what war was won. Because the second half say, except there's an exception, an exclusionary clause. And I'm no constitutional expert, but I got enough brain. I'm not a scarecrow. I got enough brain to take and read what the second half of that Constitution say in the 13th Amendment that didn't come about until after the Civil War. So my question is the war still on if they were able to get that kind of language in there? And that language say, except those, after they took and declared you free, it said, except those who are lawfully convicted and sentenced. Okay? So the game of criminal justice began with that. That's where the chess game begins. I don't care if you're a black judge. I don't care if you're a black probation officer or a black correction officer. You should read the script. Just like those other folks show up and talk about, I got the Constitution in my pocket. Have you read you should read the Constitution too, my brother and sister. You should read that Constitution because unlike everybody else, it took and told them what their liberties was without any exception. With you, it took and gave condition.
Yes.
It gave condition. And if you don't think that condition is relevant, you should ask yourself, then why, even after you were put in prison in numbers substantially larger than the numbers you were in slavery, there are more black people, more black bodies in prison cells in America today than there were slaves on plantations. Now take off, because a lot of people like to say some of this stuff is way back then. If you think it's way back then, let's get to the census. Mm-hmm. When they take and count those black bodies that are in prison, do you know where they normally count them at? Let me tell you a trick that the Department of Correction does. They normally take those black bodies that come from places like right here in Michigan, from the Lower Peninsula, those that are from Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids. Hey, if you ain't never seen the UP, you will.
That's right.
When it come time to take the census, they take your black ass up north to the UP. And you're going to be up there with the grizzly bears in the snow and the tax man. And he's going to count you. The tax man and the tax woman is going to count you in that county, in that jurisdiction. And that money is going to go there for the next 10 years. So when that black man and that black woman is brought back downstate and then paroled to Detroit, Grand Rapids, Saginaw, and Flint, when they're paroled back there, that money you talk about for reentry, well, it's up north. So what reentry are you talking about? Okay, what reentry are you talking about? Everything is remedial because your money, your tax dollars, been sent somewhere else. And they content with it. This is the same game that they played with the slave.
This is why they took and say you was one, what was it, 1/3 or 1/4 or what it is of a human being, because it was an issue of taxes.
2/5.
Okay, and they still playing the same damn game. Everybody know about the game but you and I. The black judges don't talk about it. They're too busy taking and selling into the language of the demonizing of their own damn people. The black attorney don't talk about it because he or she is too busy playing the cop game, introducing you into a plea bargain. Okay, the black prosecutor is not talking about it because he or she is introducing the damn plea bargain. Why they take and say that we got the best jury system in the world? How in the hell do you know when you're sending people to prison at the rate of 94 to 97% of pleading guilty? So what jury trials are being held? If they are being held, look at the numbers of people that's being exonerated. They represent those numbers that are normally going to trial. They inside of that 4%. They inside of that 3% that went to trial. Look in Wayne County, we have the largest number of exonerees in the state of Michigan. And that's a big, large number. And the woman want to be tapped on the back for opening the door and letting them back out. She want political capital for that. She said, I'm the first one in the nation. Okay? And she calling them exonerees. They're not exonerees.
They're innocent.
They're not exonerees. And the reason they're not exonerees is because they haven't declared them exonerees. They released them without prejudice, meaning they can come back and charge them anytime they want to. And that means that prevent them from going to the legislature and demanding money, compensation, holding anybody accountable for having put them in prison unlawfully. Okay? So what I want to say here also is there's no such thing as a person coming from prison as a returning citizen. No one in America returned from prison as a returning citizen because you never return with your constitutional rights. Immigrants have more rights, more dignity than you do entering back into society. No one will give them the problems of housing that they're going to give you when you come to prison. No one will give them the problem of entering into institutions of education, the academic institutions or the vocational institutions, the way they would with you coming back from prison. Okay, so that community you're talking about on the northwest side of Detroit, former Young Boys Incorporated. Okay, I grew up down the street from them, right on Richardson and Linwood. Okay, I'm the former leader of the Linwood Players. They came before the Young Boys. Okay, so I know that neighborhood. I know those young men and women that you would have worked with. Okay, some of them I act as a jailhouse attorney when they got there, when they didn't see that they shouldn't have been following behind me by the time I got to prison, because I got to prison before they started the Young Boys Incorporated. The Linwood Players by that time and the East Side Players by that time had done played out. Okay, and then you head to Young Boys Incorporated and they followed the same script. I spent time in prison. The kids that I knew on the west side, the bishops and the chain gang, we lived right alongside each other in the prison cell. Okay. We all was like in Ionia. All us young kids was in Ionia on J4. Okay. We lived it next door to each other. By the time we got to prison, when them guys was giving good time, all that gang stuff went away. Everybody was concerned with getting back out of prison. The prison system at that time offered good programs, good vocational and academic programs. That's why, even though it appears that I came out and done a lot, I did a damn lot while I was in prison. Okay, that's why within the first 3 years I got out of prison. No, within the first 2 years, because a half of that year, my first year out of prison, I was fighting for my good time. Okay, which after I got my butt into the University of Michigan, and I graduated within 16, 17 months with a master's degree. The only way I was able to do that is that at one time the department did take and provide an opportunity for you to go to school, and I took advantage of that opportunity. Okay, when I got into prison, like Mr. Bennett can point out, When I got there, I had a 3rd grade education. Okay, I started off in remedial classes, but by the time I left prison, I had a bachelor's degree majoring in behavioral science, and I also had a degree in paralegal studies. So I left prison with that, and then I got myself in a master's program. I completed that program within 17 months. Right now, I'm in a program where I'm trying to take my LSAT to get my butt into law school. Okay, but the point that we're trying to make here is you have to take and allow people to have their human dignity. You don't do that with warehousing them in sales, which is what's going on right now in the state of Michigan. We had so many facilities that were made out of brick and steel that were filled, that then they started building what they call temporary facilities. They look like the portables that your children used to go to. They call them pole barns or temporary facilities. Well, temporary, well, they've been there for the last 30 years. So what's temporary about 25 or 30 damn years? Okay, what's temporary? And as he pointed out, the amount of money, the way we buy into that is we listen to this dehumanization of fellow human beings.
Right.
When you hear language, anytime somebody putting somebody down, that's war language. We don't go to war with people until we debase them. We debase their humanity, then we are convinced that we can go to war. Remember what Ali said? That I'm not going to Vietnam and fight and kill nobody over in Vietnam. They never called me a nigger. None of them ever called me by that N-word. So Ali understood the psychology of war. The first thing is you begin to take and dehumanize, take away the person's dignity. So Ali understood who was taking away his dignity. They were right here, the same ones that was taking to try and invite him over into a land and to a people that hadn't done their damn thing to him. He would say, hey, when I want my rights, when I want my liberties, the only person that's standing in my way is you. The same people that are telling me to go over there and fight somebody that has never offended me. This is the attitude that we have to take.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember what's in that constitutional amendment that address us as a people, and we have to begin to take to deconstruct it, reconstruct it, and construct it in our own damn interests. In our own damn interests. Don't tell me that you have to continue to repeat what people had done in that seat that looked different from you, that didn't have our interests. Here you have the first major black prosecutor in the state of Michigan. She grind her teeth in the courthouse of a judge when she won that case against Larry Navers and Bustle for killing a black man. When she won that case and put 2 police in, the judge that she was in front of, Judge Crockett had took, before she was probably born or when she was a damn child, he had then took and threw out cases that had been brought mass arrests of African Americans out of a church on Detroit's Linwood, in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I lived down the street from there as a kid, 2075.
I did as well.
Okay, and that was Aretha's daddy's church. If you want to know who church that was Aretha daddy's church, whose kids I took and went to Thurko Elementary with. Okay, but they went in that church after someone was shot. Police were shot and killed, I believe, 1 or 2, and they believed that the persons ran into that church. They run into that church and demanded to know who done it. No one in there took and cooperated with them, so they decided they would arrest every soul that was in the church. Man, woman, and child. And here we had this lone judge in the city of Detroit. There wasn't all these judges, black judges that now exist. They didn't exist then. And this man stood up and he took and released them all because there was no probable cause to arrest them. He received death threats and everything. And here She took and ground her teeth in his courtroom and won a victory that had never been established in this nation, which was to convict and sentence of cops to killing a black man. But then she turned around when she became a prosecutor. They are arresting African Americans in the city of Detroit. There's like 2 or 3 people are being arrested for every single homicide. So the FBI was like, damn, you guys are good in Detroit. You're arresting 2, 3 people for every damn homicide. This is the best statistics in the nation. What's going on with you guys? Come to find out, those people are witnesses. When they don't cooperate with the police, they decide to take and arrest the damn witness to the homicide. Okay, so they're arresting black people without probable cause. Well, white folks was doing that. Why in the hell do we need you to do that? We don't need to be proud of you as being a black person in that position if you're going to continue that damn policy. And this is what we have to take and start demanding. These are the type of dignities that are absent inside of the criminal justice system. It is a system of violence, and it's a violence against African Americans. The most common crime that occurs against a black person in America is he or she, Fourth Amendment right is violated. Throughout this nation, black people are normally arrested or stopped while driving while black, while walking while black, while existing in America while black. Most of us come in contact with the police or the criminal justice system by that Fourth Amendment being violated, where everybody else's Fourth Amendment to be secure in their person, place, and things are being safeguarded. That's the common way of violating the African American. And it costs us $1 billion. This is a $1 billion tax that we don't even speak about as a community. We pay billions of dollars every year in taxes. White man is an invisible tax to them that we as black people pay every day for being stopped without probable cause. They see you with a damn air freshener hanging from the damn window, and they use that as a pretext to pull you over. That got nothing to do with you not cooperating. You cooperating by taking and bringing your ass out the house in the morning, by going to work, by going to church, by taking your child to school. They don't give a damn. They're looking for a pretext to stop you, and then they take and come up with reasons to take and then penalize you. This is a violent system against black people. When we look at this happening to Palestinians, we know the Israelis are doing something wrong. When we see this happen in the former apartheid South Africa, we know something is wrong. But what is wrong with it when it's happening here in North America? Somehow we don't realize it's wrong. We don't realize it's wrong because we got too much other BS going on that we think that this stuff is normal. We done allowed this stuff to normalize. We're taking your black self over to South Africa trying to tell them how to run their legal system. You haven't been able to do that here yet. So please don't export this over to black South Africa. Please don't export this over to Palestine. Please don't export this no damn where. We got to get our act right. The most pressing civil rights issue today in America is addressing the criminal justice system to take in either abolition or reform. And abolition in most cases is the solution because we've been reforming the same damn thing for 400 years. Thank you.
Mr. Bennett?
Well, I agree with a lot that you said. I go back to that neighborhood that you're talking about. I lived on Pingree and Linwood and Philadelphia and Linwood for years. One of the things that, and flip the script, we taught political science. So I often took guys back to the point they were born and brought them up to the moment they were there. And it was my development of a rites of passage that fit them, their lifestyles. Here's what we need to really realize when you're doing reentry. Every 5 years, people change. And we don't address that. Give you a case in point. Take pictures of yourself from 20 years ago and then take one for every 5 years and look at those pictures. You have a change that you will notice a change. And the programs that I designed in the 90s would not fit in the 2000s. The one I designed in 2005 did not fit in 2010 when people change. It must be relevant to those guys who are coming home now. And a lot of times they would want to go back to the point where they were arrested or back in the neighborhood and want to go back to. I said, no, brother, you got to come right where you are now, right where the world is now. And I got to help you get to this point so you can help yourself. And so that was one of the things that we did as Flip, is we stayed current. And so I've had people waited on me to get old and not become relevant. I said, well, I'm relevant because I'm recognizing things that you guys don't recognize, that I change every 5 years. They're changing too. Right. And so I had to change my programming. And so we did that. The other thing, we brought in political science. I had an in-house financial literacy program. I had a person that was in-house that had been in banking for 35 years, a brother named Simeon Hill, had worked at 3 banks. So he was there to teach them all the things they didn't learn when they were making that money rolling drugs. They could have become millionaires if they had just known a little bit about what to do with that money. So he taught them that. We also taught them language arts, the power of words, the power of speech, and how you put things together, computer literacy. And so what we did is we brought everything in-house. I had mental health. My staff, I was not a mental health expert. My staff weren't, but we partnered with people in the community that were mental health experts. Detroit a Recovery Project, other people, we brought it all in-house. And what we did is we made sure that when they served our people, they treated them with dignity just the way we did. A lot of times we hand people off that are already in trauma and hurt, and they don't have the special attention and love for those people. So I made sure that we did quality assurance, and Tim Greer shared this with you. I made sure that everybody that touched those guys treated them with first class, with dignity, and if anything, they cursed me out, cursed us out, would leave out the building. I said, when the brother gets halfway down the block, run behind him and tell him he can come back tomorrow. We all cool. Because you got to give them space to learn what's going on, to figure it all out. And so those are the things that we did. So how did I get the prison diversionary program in? Because they understand money. And so when Snyder, believe it or not, when Snyder was in office, I was in a big meeting with him. And I walked up to him and I said, how would you feel if a person told you they could save you $6 or $7 million a year? He said, I would tell that person to send me a proposal. He said, is it you? And I said, yes. And he put a card in my hand. He said, send me the proposal. So what I shared with him was, if I kept 300 men from coming up to your facilities and you only gave me $3,500 a year for those guys, then you $32,000 in the black, because it costs $35,000. And I'm going to make sure they never see you again. And so I took that and leveraged it to help build a program. Now, what happened was 3 years ago, the president of Goodwill went up and met with the director of corrections. And she asked the director of corrections, when is that Mr. Bennett going to retire? And he had the nerve to come back and ask me that, tell me that. Well, they want to know when you're going to retire. I said, what kind of fucking question is that? When I'm going to retire? I said, you understand what they're saying? They don't want a fighter. They don't want anybody that's building solutions. They don't want solutions. And so she questioned my prison diversionary program, the data and the statistics. I said, well, you show me in your data where the guys that you send to me through the courts that never come to you are hitting your gates and your doors. If you show me that, then I said, we fell. Never heard from them, because my guys wasn't going up there. Once you teach a guy his power of math, his power of entrepreneurship, his power of money, his power of controlling his language, his power of controlling his behavior, the spirituality that you don't have any power, you better look somewhere else to get your power. You ain't going back in no cage, because you understand how you can operate out here.
Right.
So that was the key. And so that was the thing. And that's one of the reasons I stepped down. I'm like, I want to make it better. I want to bridge it. And so here's the other thing the director of corrections said. She cut our budget and we were doing great. And she said, I want to take that money and open up a program on the west side of the state. I said, I don't give a damn about the west side of the state. They're not producing anything.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes, sir.
If I can, I would love for you. I am in conversation with a few gentlemen that may, in fact, run for sheriff,
Okay.
and in a few different counties. And as some of us individuals who have recently returned home from prison, we took and supported the campaign of some candidates that was running for prosecutors. And to our benefit, we helped change some of the conversations that have been going on in terms about the duties or the responsibilities of the prosecutor.
Okay.
And make them more aware of the harm that their office can cause, and some of the things they can do to stop some of the harm. And so now we're going to take and start having some of these conversations with some individuals who are running for sheriffs.
Okay.
And I believe that some of your ideas, some of your programs will be relevant to some of these people and some of these conversations. Like I just spoke to a person today in Lansing. When I got on with you guys, I was just coming from Lansing today. And there's a sheriff that I just spoke to, and I pointed out to him, some of the conversations I was having with another guy, a former sheriff that's contemplating on running for sheriff. And
Okay.
I think that we are talking about, the sheriff taking and using that space. They don't can determine who come into a county jail, but they can determine what goes on while you're there in that space. And that many times the people who are there for various social and economic reasons.
Okay.
They can use that time and space that they're there. Like, say, for an example, when a person come in, if that person doesn't have a job, they can take and work with Michigan what you call it, rehabilitative services, Michigan
MRI. Yes.
They can work with all of these different organizations, allow them to come into the county jail. If the individuals don't have ID, they can and other documents. They can work with the Secretary of State. They can provide a space in the county jail for these state agencies to come in and provide those services. If the persons have addiction and they want to address that addiction while they're in the county jail waiting on the charges that are brought against them, they can start providing them those services right there immediately. Okay.
Well, anything I can help you with, I will. We were in the Wayne County Jail when Ficano had the Wayne County Jail, and Jerry O'Hurd was the director. So I was in there for 3 years, and we had a program called the Vestibule where we'll come in, work with them for six weeks, and then they would release them to us on tether to get them out early. So we did that in the Wayne County Jail. Your former college and university studied Flip the Script for 15 years. Dr. Alfred Young is the professor over the School of Sociology and African American Studies, followed our program for 15 years, had interns and sitting in our class on a day-to-day basis. The National Institute of Corrections, Green for All, when Van Jones was there, came to our program, brought me out to Oakland, I don't know how many times. The Urban Institute designated our program as an evidence-based model. They sat and did a study for 4 years. We had one under the microscope with everything, and that's why I'm bringing this up to the people that's in the community who want to do reentry. You got to be able to pass the acid test. You cannot be lazy, because if you are, they will always eliminate you. They took it down from 128 under MPRI, and we were one of the only 3 that remained because we passed every acid test. The director of corrections was sending her top people to sit in the classrooms and around our building for about 2 years, trying to figure a way to cut Flip the Script's funding and get us out of the business. And the parole officers would speak up, and to the point she had them stop speaking to me. I would run into them in meetings in the community, and they wouldn't speak.
I want to say about that director who is still in. She's still in. She was from the Snyder administration.
Yes, she was.
How is she still in? We have a Democratic governor now, and we still have this same.
Because she's good friends with the governor. Her and the governor's daughters are good friends, high school buddies, volleyball partners. See, I knew too much. I knew too much.
And so when you can't talk about reform, she ran on reform. The governor did. She ran on reform. She created all these task force, but we see that opposite things are happening, counterproductive of reform. So we as the community and as change agents, we have to utilize our power to hold these people accountable. Because if they're taking money from programs that have measures that we see that they're working, that people are not going back in prison, then those are programs that you're supposed to be supporting instead of supporting this big prison program that takes up all the majority of the state budget.
So Goodwill Industries of Greater Detroit started a welding program under Flip the Script, I want to say 5 years ago. The director of corrections heard about it. She came down as she was a friend of Flip the Script and Goodwill, met with us a half a day, took pictures of our welders, modules and everything. And then all of a sudden they're doing welding. They're training people in welding now. Because her goal was to put the community out of business and put all that in prison. So I went up to Lansing and I asked the legislators, why would our men have to go to prison to learn welding, iron, to learn carpentry? Why they can't learn that down in our community, even if they're on tethers? Why you guys spend $35,000 up here to learn it, and you can pay us $3,300, and we families with it. I have served multiple generations of people. I've been in this business so long that I've served fathers and sons, multiple brothers. Matter of fact, they come into the program. Most of the guys in Wayne County, when they were released until I left, if the parole department or probation department asked them where did they want to go, they told them where they want. I want to go to Flip the Script. Well, we can't send all of y'all to Flip the Script. I want to go to Flip the Script. And some of them would mess around and mess up so they can get redirected to Flip the Script. And so that was the solution. We were a solution in the community, but we were being fought. I couldn't understand that. And so she's still in office because of the same kind of relationships we have in our community. We can't have, they have them, but we can't have them. We can't have them.
They are institutions that perpetuate their own jobs.
Yes.
And, it's not about taking and providing any services to those that are there. They're concerned about taking and protecting their own jobs. And
yes.
It is a policy creep. So it doesn't have, they're not providing the services to the communities that believe that they are being provided a service. We have more prisons than we do schools.
Yeah, Barack, I wanted to add to that. Let's give them some dollars, because for the listening audience or those viewing, they need to know that that industry alone is over 80 billion just with prison, jails, parole, and probation.
Yes.
Over $80 billion. So they don't care about you healing people or getting people to be recovered, because yes, they're not doing the job in the prison. They're getting paid dollars to do it. I had a reentry program, and I think it's still going on with Empowered Living, and I set that up, but they don't really care about that. They don't care about that. What they care about is that the people that they are connected with, their colleagues, their constituents, all get their money. And they're looking at that $80 billion pot, and they're saying, oh no, they're recovering. They're recovering in the community. And then what is the thing that needs to happen? Well, then we're saying take the dollars and put it in the community. They don't want to do that.
I know about 9 years ago, I was invited. I used to go up to Lansing so often they knew me. So I was invited up to the House Appropriations Committee. And so when I got ready to talk, the guy said that was sitting at the table, he said, Mr. Bennett, We know all about you. We know you walk water and all that. We know all about this, and everybody's laughing. He said, why is Flip the Script so successful? Now, the Department of Corrections is sitting behind. I said, it's because of love. And he looked and he said, okay, Mr. Bennett, seriously, why is Flip the Script so successful? I said, it's about love. I said, because I love my people. I love black. I said, I don't make no apology. I love black men. I say, and so I got to treat them right because I got to go to the gas station or I might run into them. Your people up in these facilities ain't gonna never run into them at a gas station anyway. They don't have no love for them. They don't have to have any love for them. And so they are a part of that because you talking about, if you track Heidi Washington, her family is from the director of corrections. Her family has been in corrections for a couple of generations. You know, and so I didn't say none of this. Jay is getting all this first because I just love the way she brings it. I didn't talk for 20 years and people were whispering to me like, you need to come out and say what you know. But I couldn't say it because I was a gatekeeper protecting the services that we were able to give to the young men and women and the men and women. Because I've served them from 18 to 64. I helped the sick guy that came home at 64. Had been in there 42 years, get his welding certificate, went out and bought him a Cadillac and all of that, started reliving his dreams. Now, I didn't care because that's your dream. But my thing was I had to protect those services and bite the bullet, sacrifice ego, and all of that to make sure. But I knew that once I got away from, then I wanted to protect Goodwill's brand too because they hired me. They gave me the space to be creative. And I told them coming to go, when you give a black man space to be creative, watch out. You're going to get more than you pay for. You know, and so I had to protect their brand. They went to bat for me a lot of times and things. They really helped at certain times. But then when they got pushed up under this new constraint with the Republican director of corrections who asked, when is he going to retire? And you bring that back to me? And I've been doing this for you for 18 years. You want to tell me what she says? It's time for me to speak up.
And in support of what Tina pointed out, Lil John, in terms of the numbers and so forth, if you might know something about this as well, Bennett, when the Mound and Ryan correctional facilities were built, they built with it a state-of-the-art laundry. The prisoners there were supposed to take and do the laundry for the convalescent homes and the hospitals in the area.
Yes.
They never
did it. Never
opened for more than 20, 25 years or more that those facilities sit because the unions decided that it would take away jobs from them. So they took and put pressure on the MDOC, and the MDOC never. So when the prisoners showed up at Mound and Ryan, they were idled. They literally was idled. So if you want to know where did they get time to take and plot to take and escape from Ryan, it was due to the idleness that the unions took and the department took and brought about within the facilities. Okay, they had time to just sit around. Okay, because the jobs that was intended for those two facilities
never got them.
And that ain't the only thing that happened with those facilities. They was intending to take and allow the men there at those facilities to learn how to start building the manufactured homes. The woman that was the principal over the school building found out because they was going to take and manufacture them in the building next door, which was the formal laundry area that they never put to use, wouldn't be under her control, even though it's just a few feet from the school. She wouldn't be over control of it. So she decided, no, if the only way I can be over control over the program is that it be in my building, then we pare it down. So instead of the guys building manufactured homes, they start building podiums and cabinets, dog houses and doll houses. Okay, so that took away real jobs from real men and women. Okay, these are jobs that these people could have came back into the community with. These are the stories that you don't hear because we are too preoccupied with the dehumanization of people that's coming from your own community. We're too preoccupied with this behavior. Like the guy, we just had a thing with the parole board, and we had individuals recently come home from prison. Even while we're sitting there talking to them, they supposedly asking us, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? Give us some advice. And why they talking to us, they're referring to us as offenders. And I'm like, really? You know, they said, and so when the director of the state appellate defender's office asked them, how is it you guys can't get rid of that language? They said, oh, we have talked about it, but every time we meet together as an organization, we all talk about it, but we can never come up with a term that we want to use. So here you got a bunch of miseducated people that don't know how to take and begin to give respect. They can't get there. They're gonna have to be ordered. Maybe somebody gonna have to go to court and ask the court to order them to quit using derogatory languages towards other human beings. You know, maybe that would get them to do it.
I've done that. You know, they've caught me a couple of times saying my guys, and they said, "What do you mean, your guys?" I said, "My guys." I said, once I touch them, they belong to me. We are together. We're joined at the hip. And so I would never use that. Back in the 90s, when guys would come home and call themselves an ex-con, I said, I don't want to hear that word. You are not allowed to use ex-con around me sitting in this building at all. I'm not buying that. That's just not going to happen. And so we've tried to do that. I went inside probably 18 times a year. That's the other thing that if people want to run reentry programs, you have to go inside. Relationships start inside. And so you got to gain trust inside, start relationship. So by the time they were paroled, they wanted to come out, and I gave my business card out, and I would tell them 2 calls you need to make when you come home, your people and me. I need to see you within 48 hours of you getting released. I don't care where I'm at, you find me. So that's I spent New Year's Eve. One of the most famous persons that were locked in Ryan is free now. He was a lifer, Daryl Woods. And Daryl will tell you, I used to spend New Year's Eve in there. I used to do church services in there. So it's an inside-outside job. You just can't do reentry and not go inside. And so you got to live and breathe it. And so the relationships start inside. You don't want to meet a guy unless you have to. The first time he walk in your office, you on parole. You want to meet him inside and give him something to motivate him to come to your building and to come to your office once he's released.
Right. Tony, here go Matt.
Well, everything that's being said is true. But the problem that I have, is time. You know, because it's very clear to me the system is well prepared to outweigh a lawyer like myself. Okay.
Yes, they are.
At 67 years of age, I fully expect to live for at least another 30 years. But if the good Lord, and practice that long too, I might add. But if the good Lord has got something else, I'm having trouble finding another generation of young lawyers to take my place. Okay. And so that is the problem that I have, because with my trying to mentor and tutor some of the younger members of my profession, particularly Black men, it's a difficult thing to do. You know, people are coming out now. They have more interest in some kind of a corporate law or business-oriented law. You see, not criminal law, because I know it's a surprise to all y'all, but unless you are F. Lee Bailey or Johnny Cochran or something like that, there really isn't a hell of a lot of money being a criminal defense attorney, okay? There really isn't. So this is the problem that I try to confront. And by the way, lest anybody think I'm being racist about this, I'm not trying to reach out just to Black attorneys. I'm talking about the
Mhm.
spirit of freedom in a person that wants to be willing to stand up, as I have done many times and been chastised many times by a court, by telling the judge they're wrong. They're wrong, okay? And there's one judge, name was Bronson, Judge Bronson, 14th District Court judge. The man would dismiss the jury on me routinely, you know, and dress me down. You know what I'm saying? I didn't care.
Mhm.
And perhaps I wouldn't be that bold today, but being young and seeing injustice, I spoke up. So I guess for me, I'm asking for, while we're doing the reevaluation, when you come in contact with somebody that says they want to be an attorney and specialize in criminal law or criminal justice, or civil rights law, encourage that person, because they're going to meet a tidal wave of opposition, a tidal wave, especially when you show you're dedicated to a cause, because they will throw that money in front of you, they will throw that position in front of you, they will throw these common ass prosecutors and police in front of you who have no problem threatening you. I've been stopped by the state police and the county sheriff in Washtenaw County on some BS traffic situation, you know, and said, yeah, well, we remember you. Okay. I said, okay, well, I remember that because I remember you too. Okay. Never got a ticket, but they wanted to let me know if and when they decided to stop me and get to me, they could. That's the message they wanted to send me, you know.
Right.
So
That's so true. I was brought out to Phoenix, Arizona in the 90s to this racist warden that had a tent facility out there. And he had heard about me. So he brought me out there and was trying to recruit me to come out that way. He had these guys housing. Pardon me?
Arpaio?
Yes.
Yes.
He had these guys in tents out there in the middle of the desert. No
I
AC.
saw that on TV. I saw that. Yeah.
And then when I found out he had them wearing pink underwear,
that's right.
I went up one side of him and down the other side of him. I said, "What?" I said, "This is the most racist shit. You think I would be connected with this? You must be sick." Right. And so they will do that. I have the same problem you had. A lot of men came in, and I would ask them, "What do you want to do in 5 years?" And the brothers, I thought they undershot themselves. They said, "I want to do what you're doing. I want to be you." And I would give them the advice that I thought they needed to replace me. I always thought I would have someone replace me. And I did mentor a young man who came, worked up under me for 5 years, brilliant brother. By the time I got ready to leave, he knew more than I did. He was technically more sound than I did. But my people, when I got ready to step away, would not hire him, avoided him like a plague. And he's then, I won't tell you where he's working now, but it's a much higher office, and he's making almost 3 times as much money. And he was a returning citizen. And I told them, I said, do you know what story that would have made? That a returning citizen is running the state and the city's top reentry program? You guys don't have a clue. And so, you know, we got to open these doors for young men. But like you say, a lot of them want the glitz and glamour. And I've told guys, I work 60 hours a week. I started at 6 in the morning, and I rarely got home before 6 in the evening or 7 for 25 years. And I worked most Saturdays and was in church Sundays, speaking a lot in churches about what we were doing. And a lot of these guys said, I will never do that, Mr. Bennett, for the little money you make. So, you know, that's the sacrifice.
Yeah, they willing to take and ask us for our volunteer work.
Yes.
You want to play that game that you can pay your debt to society. I don't owe society a damn thing.
Right.
I owe society a damn thing. If there's a particular person that I owe an apology to, then that's understandable. They didn't have the right to tell the state to take and not, or to prosecute on their behalf. Okay, but society, I don't owe you a damn thing. In fact, I would appreciate if you get out my damn way. Why I take and try to get on with my life. Okay, And for those individuals that were taking call, me and others who have come home from prison and where they want our work in a volunteer capacity and then they turn around and hire someone else. Look, these men and women that are coming home are experts. They have expertise they can offer. They have insight that your degrees and your theories, your hypotheticals and so forth won't take and compete with. And you are losing because you're doing the same damn thing over and over and over again.
Mhm.
If we're only take and utilize some of these people. I followed the example of many other African American men that I met in prison, including Abdul Rahman Akum Shagan, who came home, got his master's degree at the University of Michigan, and then subsequently got his PhD in African and African American studies.
Mhm.
He did the same thing when he got out here that he did when he was in prison. He studied his African history and his African American history, and he advocated it the same way he did in prison that he did once he took and got a degree from the university. You know, he passed about what, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago?
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
This is the same gentleman that Coleman Young, former state representative Nelson Saunders, and others advocated on his behalf for release. And other there was the woman professor there at the University of Michigan that used to literally come up to the prison and visit him regularly and advocate on his behalf, etc. They got him home, and he took care of his business when he got home. And you know, he chose the path for going to take and become a scholar and get his degree and so forth. And he was passionate about that when we were in prison. You know, he was my imam when we was in prison. I served time with him in not one prison, but 3 prisons. You know, so I knew him very well. Because of his outspokenness, he had to have security, and I was one of the persons that provided him that security while we were in prison.
Mhm.
But I followed the example of other fellow Muslims that served time in Michigan prison. So I'm not the first that came out and got a degree within the time that I did. There were others that done the same thing. Like
Mhm.
I may have went into prison with a 3rd grade education, but the people that I associated with was very driven to take and do something better with their lives, and they did. There are other brothers that I know that I've done time with that are working, have good jobs, whether they are the director of various programs, whether they have license for certain professions, and some of them don't care to be out like I am. They don't care and say,
Mhm.
I had one brother, he said, you know, he show up at an event and he told me, say, don't out me. He said, because
Right.
I have to go into people's houses.
Right.
You know, he say, I'm a realtor and I have to go into people's houses, and sometimes it's a woman and she might be alone and I have to go in her house, or I have to have her to meet me in a home somewhere. And if they knew I was in prison, he had been in prison before, they might not feel comfortable with going in that space with me. So I understand that. I understand that. But I don't intend to take and do that. That's a personal decision, though. It's not for me to take and out somebody. But yes, there are many capable men and women. I got individuals that I know. There's two brothers I know that both of them came out just before I did, and both of them are running successful businesses, transportation services.
I probably know him.
Both of them are running very successful transportation services. They're making good money. You know, one of them offered me a job, and the other one took and told me, you know, they won't let me hire you. He said, because the insurance is so much. He said that if I put you in there, they would cancel my insurance. You know, he said they want to charge me too much for insurance to take and hire someone that's been in prison. So this is what I mean when I say I need this society to get out my way in order for me not to reciprocate. You know, I need them to get out my way. You know, the millions of people that are coming home from prison, they just need you out of their damn way where they can do what they want to do in terms of succeeding in correcting their lives. I don't need you referring to me as a damn offender.
Right.
Who thinks of stuff like that?
Right.
Refer
Well,
to another human being as an offender.
Well, what I did was I told gentlemen the first time I met him, whatever success we can help you with, you don't owe us anything. You don't owe me a dinner. I don't want you following behind me. I want you to go out into the world and open up other doors for other brothers, pull somebody along. And if I send you somewhere, just leave that door open. That's all you need to do. You don't owe anybody anything. I know the Department of Corrections got upset at me because I would not allow guys to come in my program during the month of December. And I fought that, and they were threatening to take my contracts. And I said, well, you can take it. They said, well, what is your reasoning? I said, because you don't study people. I said, they got families at home, and the minute they walk in the door, these families want them to play Santa Claus. They want them to be a part of a fake commercial thing, which is going to cause them to stress out about money and gifts. I'm not going to have them deal with that. They can come see me on January the 2nd when all of that's over with. And so those little things that I set, and I listened to the brothers enough, and every issue they had when they come home, I would file that away, put it in my curriculum, in my notepad, so they didn't have to jump through that barrier when they came home. And then they asked me, how do you keep these guys off drugs? Every one of them passed a drug test. I said, well, probably 90% pass a drug test before we send them to an employee. Why do you do that? I said, because you expect them when they walk in to come in clean. I do not expect them to come in my place clean. What I expect them to do is once they're here, what we can help them with, what's open for them, the opportunities they have, and how we're going to treat them. We give them 8 weeks to get clean. Come clean so you can get clean. I said, then we're able to reach 91% of them. I said, I don't expect them to come in clean. You setting them up if you want them to walk in the door and come in clean. I said, you got to understand, you want people to be perfect. I ain't expecting these guys to be perfect. I'm expecting them to give perfect efforts after they know what's available to them. And so a lot of those things are considered best practices in the industry. And when I talk to people, I'm talking to people in Massachusetts now, they're like, why ain't about 20 flip the scripts in the state of Michigan? I said, because a black man created it. You think they want 20? And a black man created it? Hell no.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's a philosophy we use with the Muslims. We used to tell the prisoners, they were like, if anytime I get my life together, I'm gonna be a Muslim. And we tell you no. You know, if you had your life together, you wouldn't have to be over here. Mm-hmm. You know, if you recognize a need, then that's when you take and show up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and this is what the religious institutions are doing. We are all so self-righteous. Mm-hmm. And when people come to us dirty, we say, we don't want you. We don't want you because you're doing all these terrible things. That's the exact person that you want. The Moorish Americans used to take that attitude. They used to say, we here to take and help failing humanity. So I used to like that philosophy. And that's what you're saying too. You know, that, hey, you don't have to be perfect when you come here. Just make a commitment to get there.
Yeah.
Work towards it.
And flipping the script, I may never see it, brother. I may never see that whole process pan out. All I want you to do is flip it. I'm going to start that process here. It may take it 5 years for it to click in. Then the other thing is I had about 11 religious denominations were coming in to our program almost on a daily basis or a weekly basis. The Nation of Islam was there all the time, to the point the president called me to her office back in 2007. And she asked me, she said, who runs Flip the Script? I said, I run Flip the Script. She said, you sure? I said, yeah, I know who runs Flip the Script. I said, why are you asking that? She said, because I hear the Nation of Islam run Flip the Script. I said, no, I run Flip the Script. She said, the Nation of Islam is here all the time. I said, yeah, they here. I said, because every time I call, the brothers answer. I said, every time I look up, they got a handout for my guys, or a hand up. I said, but they don't run the program, but they're the greatest partners that I can find. I said, you haven't asked me about the Presbyterians who are here. You haven't asked me about the Christians who are here. I said, what I'm doing is leading the brothers to somebody greater than them, but I'm letting them select them. I'm bringing 8 or 9 religions in here, and I'm not trying. Don't come in here recruiting. But if the brothers believe in your philosophy and see what they need to see, and you speak into their heart, they will follow you. And so we had a great record of leading guys to the supreme being. Now they chose how that looked and who that wanted to be. Because they will ask me, Brother Bennett, how did you avoid all this? I said, because it was the power of somebody greater than me that kept me together. And so we were doing all of that. And so we did it at a high capacity. And I wanted to bring this on Jay's show because she deserves it, to understand that there are solutions in the community. But if a Black man invented and is putting it in motion, they don't want to buy it. They rather, as the lawyer said, they rather wait till you retire. And I'm just like him. I told God, don't call me home until I get finished. Please let me come home empty, because I'm going to stay in the game.
That's right. Amen. That's right. That's right.
It's been so awesome. This probably has been our longest event, but it's just been so awesome, the learning and the understanding how, something can be so awesome. And then there's people who want to, tweak it or take it away because it doesn't serve their needs. Their needs is to keep us coming in and make that door continue to revolve when we want to heal and move forward and have productive communities. So I always end it is with allowing everyone to give, their final say. So I'll start with you, Reverend Tia.
Oh my goodness. I'm really ecstatic, excited, filled with love right now because I am moved. Of course, I knew about Mr. Bennett's activity and love in the community. And I'm just grateful that he is leaping and continues to leap from a platform of love. And I believe that's what's needed, because when your platform is anything else, I don't care what it looks like out here, any other construct is getting ready to come down. And that's what I believe. And that's why I believe that this platform, turning a moment into a movement, is essential so that people can be informed, can be educated, and can understand how love can make you move forward and do what God has called you to do. Thank you so much, and I can't wait till next week.
Thank you. Edward, do you have some final remarks?
I'm sorry. I hope that we be able to attract other guests like Keith Bennett. I was trying to show you a picture of Gerard Woods that I recently took with him, myself, and Washtenaw County, two leading prosecutors. But I'm hoping that we get other guests, of your caliber here on the show. And we had some darn good guests. The young lady that came last week, who I apologize that I wasn't on the show to talk about suicide in the penal system, and from those that actually commit suicide even after they come home and so forth. And she had solutions about post-trauma, dealing with corrections or incarceration. These are good conversations. And I hope that those who were not able to take and actually be here live, that they will listen to these tapings later, and they can make use of them. Find some use of them in your church, your social gatherings, your discussion with youth, people in the criminal justice system, etc. I will hope judges and lawyers and prosecutors and sheriffs and police will take the time and listen to this. These conversations are very important, and I'm very glad, very elated to be a part of it. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Attorney Hugo Mack.
Well, I want to say this.
Okay.
My scripture teaches me about two men named Joshua and Caleb. And these men refused to accept a negative report. You know, even though they were outnumbered, yelled down, all right, even though an entire nation chose to go with a negative report, these men kept their integrity. And time had to pass for all the people who believed the negative report to pass on. But Joshua and Caleb maintained, you see. And when Caleb was 80 years old, he told Joshua, give me this mountain. So I'm just thinking here, I'm telling y'all, I'm 67 and I'm sitting in this chair. And the longer I sit in this chair, the more comfortable I feel. I may have to call somebody to get me out this chair. It feels so damn good. But see, I know that I've got to get up and keep working. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in talking to all of y'all, I'm saying right now, Lord, give me this mountain, you know? So keep me going for another 13 some odd years till I'm 80. Then I'm going to ask you to give me the mountain again, because it can get discouraging in a carnal sense when you're trying to pass something on to a younger generation, because you don't want the vision, the dream, the energy, the love, the commitment, the insight to die with you, okay? To die with you, you know? And so I'm encouraged. And, you know, Brother Bennett, it's been a pleasure. Edward, Tia, my great leader, J Love, I mean, I'm energized. So I want to thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm inspired every time we get together and see my brothers and sisters in justice. So, you know, Lord willing, we'll see everybody next week.
Yes. Mr. Bennett, you have any final words for us?
Well, first of all, thank you for the panelists and guests for even listening and sharing your stories. I tell everybody, if you really love Black and brown people, you got to listen to them. Nobody else listens to us. And so I encourage us to keep listening to each other, because nobody else listens to us. Nobody else hears our cry. And so the only thing we have is each other. And we must pull that together and keep it together. And with Jay, I share with you, you took a moment and you made it into a movement. I took an opportunity and made it into a program and built an institution. Let's build institutions and pass those on to the next generation. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Bennett, for joining us. I want to also, Trishay's not here, but I want to remind everybody about the Wrongful Conviction Summit. This summit is given by Survivor Speak, our sister Trishay Duckworth, who is over the Survivor Speak. She's the CEO and the founder. This Wrongful Conviction Summit is coming up on October the 2nd on National Wrongful Conviction Day. It will be in Detroit. The location, hopefully we know by next week. The COVID is prolonging the answer, but is hopefully next week we'll have the answer. But make sure you save this day, October the 2nd, from 1 p.m. to 4, the Wrongful Conviction Summit. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week with another awesome lineup. And until then, goodbye. Much love.
All right. God bless everybody.
Peace.